welcome to this week's episode of TRP. I am Remy. I'm here with Lord Matthew. Ruben, our senior Latin correspondent, is in the Dominican Republic getting first-hand scoops, probably.
First-hand diseases, probably.
Why not both? Scoops and diseases.
They go hand in hand, right? Probably. I don't know.
I feel like there's a pun to be had there that I'm not quite sure we reached at.
I'm really terrified of what that pun would be.
I don't want to go there, but do you know where I do want to go?
Montreal.
No, but we'll get there soon. And we could get there from a new vehicle from McGeorge Toyota on Broad Street here in Richmond. Shout out to Bernie Farmer. I do keep my promises. Bernie is a salesman at McGeorge Toyota, so if you're looking for a newer used vehicle, Toyotas get pretty good mileage.
We're doing promos now.
We're doing when somebody asks me to do something. This was not a paid placement. My wife drives a Toyota, and it's gotten 200,000 miles on it so far, and drove us on that cross-country tour. Well, not cross-country, but northeast New York, Canada, Philly trip I did. So yeah. They're good cars.
Cool.
So there you have it. There's a shout-out. If you have any other things to hawk out there, friends of the show, I'm down. We prefer to get paid, but,
I mean, I'll say something if I get paid. That's fine. Matt
will say literally almost anything if he gets paid.
For money.
For money.
Specifically for money.
Specifically for money. TRP, specifically for money. That will bring us into the opener of the show. And a lot of Yankee talk to be had.
That's expected.
That is expected of me. But the biggest news that happened last week at the start of it was the Mariners traded designated hitter first baseman Edwin Encarnacion to the Yankees. Joel Sherman from the New York Post said, along with Encarnacion, the Mariners sent about $8.4 million in the Yankees' way. The Yankees are going to owe about $3.4 million left on that contract. They traded pitching prospect Juan Then, who, ironically enough, was actually traded from the Mariners to the Yankees for reliever Nick Rumbelow a few years ago. So, I guess they wanted Juan Then.
That was really bad.
That's the kind of humor I do.
That was really bad.
Edwin was owned about $20 million this season, and $5 million of that is being paid by the Tampa Bay Rays. So, yes, the Tampa Bay Rays are paying the Yankees to have Edwin Encarnacion beat them up. That kind of came about earlier this year when there was a three-way trade between the Indians, Rays, and Mariners. The Indians had gotten Carlos Santana back, first baseman outfielder Jake Bowers. The Rays got Yandy Diaz, and the Mariners had Encarnacion off that deal. He's already hit 2 home runs for the Yankees. He's the AL leader in home runs. He does walk the parrot, his little elbow out walkie thing. I know how I feel about it. I mean, the Yankees need pitching. They didn't need more homers, but it doesn't hurt, and there was a good spot to put him in. And from all accounts, I mean, he seems to be a good guy. People know him on the Yankees. Good hitter, sees a lot of pitches per plate appearance, which is good to have. Does do a good job of kind of changing his swing when there's, runners in scoring position or based on the count. So he's not just an all or nothing type of guy. I know he's hitting around 240, but if you're paying $3 million for that kind of productivity, I feel like it's, hey, why not?
I would agree with that. I think as you said, I don't think you need more hitting. I think you have enough hitting. I guess you can never have too much hitting, but it does make your lineup much better. I think because of the low cost involved with it, it's an okay deal. But I think I agree. I think pitching was sort of the priority, and maybe we'll get that during the before the trade deadline after the All-Star break or something. But I wouldn't, for $3 million. I would definitely not turn him down. That's for sure.
No, it's a good addition. I think it's a good move. Your Yankees are gonna keep trying to make those impact trades. Brian Cashman said at the start of the season they're a fully operational Death Star, so they're gonna get the people they need. But when you have an opportunity like that, and I saw out there online that the Rays, the Rockies, or other teams who are potentially involved with Encarnacion. There were some rumors that maybe the Red Sox, but I don't know about that. But anyway, you keep them away from potential in-division rivals, and then like we just said, you're getting massive bomb potential for
Plus,
nothing.
he knows the AL East very well from his time in Toronto, so it's not like he's never seen these teams before that infrequently.
No, and he also murders the Red Sox statistically, so
which is what you want.
Yeah.
At all times.
So you make the improvements when you can. But going from hitting to pitching in Yankee land, CC Sabathia just got his 250th win against the Rays this week. So he has 250 career wins. He has 3,000 strikeouts, 615 win-loss percentage, career 7 point, that'd be great.
Ooh.
Career 3.71 ERA, 62.9 WAR, 2007 Cy Young winner. 4 other times he was in the top 5 for Cy Young voting, and his WAR is better than 25 individuals already, pitchers already in the Hall of Fame. I know what I'm going to say, but Matt, CC Sabathia, is he a Hall of Fame pitcher at this point? Does his resume spark notions of Cooperstown in your mind?
I would tentatively say he would, only because there aren't many pitchers that get 3,000 strikeouts anymore, and especially with, I think win-loss is sort of a lost statistic at this point. I think people don't really track that or put a lot of weight into that.
No.
Pun intended with CC.
Oh, ha, 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 ha. 1 pound per win.
Not even quite yet, though. But no, 250 wins is very impressive, and like you said, he had a lot of good years with Cleveland prior to moving on to other teams.
He was great for Milwaukee when they had him.
Sure. I mean, he's been a consistent, maybe not the best pitcher in the league at all times, but a very consistent pitcher. You know what you're getting out of him. Again, people getting that strikeout plateau just doesn't happen that much anymore. 250 wins is even a lot, even nowadays, for that kind of thing. I mean, compared to other pitchers that are pitching in his era, I would say tentatively, I think he would be in. I think it'd be one of those. I don't know if it'll be first ballot, but I think eventually he should get in.
I think so. What is he, something like the third lefty ever to get the 3,000 strikeouts?
It just doesn't happen anymore.
I think when you look at the playoff performances, when you look at, like you said, consistency, I mean, he has been a fantastic pitcher. I mean, even now with the guy 39 years old, he gets a lot of soft contact. He's maybe not racking up the strikeouts because when he started in the league, he had the 95+ mile an hour fastball. He's not working with that anymore, and he's found ways to stay competitive, and he has the longevity. Yeah. And I think that's the hallmark of a Hall of Famer. Did you have a long career? Were you dominant for the good chunk of it? What was your success? And even with almost nothing left in the tank, he's still highly successful, and I think he's got a great track record. So, like you said, not a first ballot Hall of Famer by any stretch, but I think he gets his ticket punched to Cooperstown, somewhere on his ballot appearance.
I think so.
And kind of going into from the best in the league to our favorite segment, dumpster fire.
We need a jingle or something.
We need a jingle. You can make a piano segue.
I gotta just sound like gibberish or something. I don't know.
You could just make like a little.
You have somebody vomiting, maybe. I don't know.
That's just wonderful. That's really gonna keep things in. We normally focus on one kind of ridiculous thing for the dumpster fire segment, but I got to turn it into two things. I could not pick, and I did propose it on Twitter, and I didn't get a good way, one way or the other, to say, oh, this was clearly people's perception of a bigger dumpster fire than the other. So let's just get into it.
Sure.
The first thing, speaking of the Twitters, which is something I like to say, the Twitters.
The Twitters. I think you're the only one that says that.
Absolutely. The Umpires Union decided to do 900 different hashtags in response to Manny Machado's 1-game suspension. Machado was suspended when he argued a called third strike that he didn't agree with. Maybe he had some issues throughout the game. And he got up in the umpire's face. He cursed. He, I guess, touched him briefly, barely.
Kind of.
Maybe. Incidental contact. And the Umpires Union, I guess, decided that the best way to react to their objection of the 1-game suspension was to do, a tweet storm with every hashtag humanly possible, because that's going to appear mature and adult. And the MLB came out with a statement saying that they did not feel that Twitter display was appropriate from the league officials there. Matt, how do you feel about these grown men going on Twitter, 900 hashtags about Machado, and then also, in your opinion, how do you think it would be perceived if a player did that against the umpires?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm very disappointed, not appreciated, not tolerated, made an example. No, I'm just kidding.
God help you.
Yeah, that just seems like, and I saw when Machado got ejected. I don't think he was. I mean, he reacted very aggressively after he was thrown out. I didn't see anything egregious when he may have. I mean, it was probably a borderline call. It probably was a ball when the call was made. I didn't see anything egregious from him. He might have said something under his breath or, directed to the umpire or whatever, but he was very quick to throw him out. Got very heated. He probably bumped him. I mean, I think he got bumped, I'm sure.
I think it was a grazing.
Yeah, which is you get suspended, so if you touch the ump, that's not good. To go on that kind of a retaliation, especially for, this sort of thing happens all the time. You see players get ejected, you see managers get ejected. Why was this one in particular singled out? And, I get Machado's a very, emotional player to say the least. And I'm guessing that's partly why this was done this way. But to single out that specific instance at this specific time just seems kind of a weird situation almost. I don't understand it's almost like somebody just hacked the umpire's Twitter account and was like, okay, well, let's do all the kids do and just throw a whole bunch of hashtags there and that'll get followers or something. I don't know.
I don't know what they're looking for out of that. But also, if a player did that, if let's say Machado went on Twitter and did a tirade like that against the umpires, or let's say like Bryce Harper or some other visible person, did a Twitter tirade like that, I mean, the league would probably take action or do something against that individual. I don't see, and I think a lot of people's gripe is that the umpires are not usually held to the same accountability as the players. I mean, how often has, like, Angel Hernandez or
that's the
Joe...
first one I thought of.
Yeah, that's the first one most people would think of. Or Joe West or CB Buckner or somebody done something. We know these umpires' names, which I think I've said on a previous show is the most wrong thing humanly possible.
You should not know the umpires' names.
No.
I guess you should, but not to that level.
Because there's always something that seems like just outright ridiculous that's going on in the game of baseball, to the point where people want robot umps, and I don't ideally want that, but you see calls blown and like players get aggravated on both teams.
Hernandez had one a couple weeks ago against the Yankees, or for the Yankees. I can't remember if it was against or for him.
Probably
it was in the
both.
Yankees game. Yeah.
So, there's got to be something done. There needs to be some better accountability by the MLB umpires, and just 900 hashtags at a player. They should be embarrassed. You honestly should be embarrassed with yourselves for doing that. You wouldn't expect it of a player. You wouldn't expect it of a manager. You wouldn't expect it of a GM. You wouldn't expect it of a bat boy. So you're not going to expect it, from the league umpires.
Well, I think the difference, too, is that the league umpires are doing it from the league umpires account.
Yeah.
It'd be very different if, Hernandez specifically was like, hey, this is wrong, and called out a player. And if it definitely happened, say your piece, but don't throw 1,000 hashtags. Keep it very objective if you can. I understand not bumping into the umpires, throwing things or whatever at that point. But like you said, if Machado came out and retaliated against the umpires on Twitter, he'd be called out and said a whole bunch of names and say he's a hothead and all this. But the umpires, inappropriate. I doubt they would be calling Machado inappropriate if he did the exact same thing.
No, you can't have the double standard. But speaking of double, let's head south to Tampa and north to Montreal for the Tampa-Montreal X-Rays.
That's a good name.
The Tampa-Montreal X-Rays?
I think it's perfect.
We are composing ourselves momentarily. So this came out just yesterday, so it's hot in the news. But the league has approved, the MLB Executive Council has approved Tampa to explore potentially spending half their season in Tampa for home games, and then the other half of their home games being played in Montreal. This just has cluster written all over it. All over it.
This cannot be a good idea. It really. How do you decide what games are played in what state, I guess. Like, how are you picking the home games at that point? I guess by location, like what teams are coming in or something?
I don't think they've actually thought this one out. It might be like first half of the season is Tampa, second half of the season is Montreal, something like that.
So are they the Tampon X-Rays, or are they the Tampa Bay Rays and the Montreal Expos half the time, or do you have different uniforms depending on where you're going?
I have no idea. And then also, like, there's bigger consequences, taxes on contracts would be super weird. How do you explain to a player, like, oh, you're going to have to uproot your family several times throughout the season because reasons? I mean, there's just so many logistical nightmares that would come from this. And my favorite thing is the St. Petersburg mayor. I'm going to botch his name more than trying to do that sentence. But Rick Kreisman, perhaps? That might be right?
Sure.
Why not? He said this is getting silly, and they would need the city council for Tampa Bay St. Pete to approve this too, because of their contract with the stadium. It's just not a thing that's legitimately going to happen. So on the one hand, it's a dumpster fire because the Rays even suggesting it, maybe because they're trying to get a new stadium, so maybe like, oh, we'll threaten to kind of sort of leave ish, gets a direction. I don't know how you think that. How that makes sense.
It's like some kind of a weird solution to their low. I get why they're exploring other options, because they have crappy attendance for a really good team. I mean, they should have more fans come to the games. They have a crappy stadium. They have crappy attendance. So of course they're going to want to try to look somewhere else. Maybe, like you said, playing half the games up there will get more draw to the games where they're actually in Tampa Bay. But then, like you said, you're paying for 2 stadiums. You're paying for 2 sets of personnel that you're not going to uproot the entire Rays staff from one place.
You are, though. That's the thing is, like, I'm assuming, I don't know what you would do. It just, none of it makes sense. It seems like literally the stupidest thing. There has been examples. I think there's a basketball team that did it once. That they spent some of the season in one place. And
was it that extreme though?
No, I don't think it was that extreme. But it was 2 different locations, maybe like Kansas City and Omaha. And I'm blanking on this right now. But it's not something that's often done, nor is it something, in my opinion, that should be done. You're going to alienate 2 sets of fans. MLB's trying to get an expansion going in the next few years, one of which possibly to Montreal. If the city of Montreal completes a new stadium, they're not going to share a team with the Rays. I mean, it's just stupid. It's just flat out stupid.
Like you said, with contracts, no one's going to want to play for him. No one's going to want to work for him. I mean, it's going to have a detrimental effect across the board.
None of it makes any damn sense. And Tampa, we salute you. You come up with the dumbest solutions to your horrible problems. I really hope they get a new stadium. I mean, like, in all honesty, like you said, they're neck and neck with the Yankees right now in the AL East. They have exciting players to watch. The area just we talked about this on a previous show. The area just kind of sucks. The stadium is just a joke. Like, it just flat out, they're better off playing in Epcot in the little golf ball.
Oh, that'd be fun.
That'd be great. Why not? But it's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And if I was the Tampa Bay fandom, all 5 of you, I would not worry about them splitting the season. You don't have to buy a winter coat to head up to Montreal.
There's got to be a better combination of the 2 teams somehow. The Tampa X-Rays does sound really awesome though.
Tampa-Montreal.
I would totally buy a jersey. If they somehow made that a team, I would buy a jersey. I don't care if I cheer for them or not.
Would I make a jersey? Should I make a Tampa-Montreal
X-Rays? If you could somehow make a jersey, I would totally wear it all the time.
So apparently, if we have clothing designers out there, Matt really wants a Tampa-Montreal X-Rays.
I will pay you for a Tampa-Montreal X-Ray jersey. I don't even know what it looks like, but it sounds awesome.
Horrible. All right, so we're heading to our closer here. There was another rumor going out last week while we're talking about silly things that we've potentially heard. This one may have some legs. Charlie Walters, who is a columnist for the Pioneer Press out in Minnesota, was stating that the Twins are moving closer to a trade and acquisition for Madison Bumgarner of Los Gigantes. And it makes somewhat sense that the Twins are leading their division. They're going to need to make a big playoff push. They don't do particularly well against the Yankees in particular. I'm sure the Astros would not match up favorably. I can speak to them either. I mean, last night Madison got roughed up pretty bad by the Dodgers. I think he went 3 2/3 and gave up like 6 runs.
It was the most runs and hits he ever gave up to the Dodgers.
He's had a rough season. I mean, granted that game is gonna impact his statistics a little bit more, but he's 3-7. He's got a 4.28 ERA. He's got 93 strikeouts so far in the season. I think he's pitched about 96 innings, and he's got like a 1.24 ERA. Or ERA, whip. Whip. Cool whip. For his career, I mean, guys in the low threes. He doesn't usually give up a lot of walks and hits per 9 innings. I mean, at what point, though, are we looking at Mad Bum and saying, he's an ace because of what he's done versus he's still an ace? I mean, what do you think? You see him usually a lot more than I do, being in the NL.
Yeah, well, we didn't even see him. I don't think we played the Giants yet this year, so I don't think we've seen him at all yet. But I think the last time I distinctly remembered, Arrieta hit a home run off of him, so I have no problems with Bumgarner, but. I think his past track record, I think at this point is speaking more for his capabilities than his current track record, because he has been more injury prone lately. He's been kind of on the downturn in terms of the overall pitching quality. Yeah, he still strikes out a lot of batters, but he also gives up a lot of hard contact, more so than he has in the last few years. He's obviously very emotional at times, which couldn't be a problem, I guess, but in the playoffs you kind of want that a little bit. I'm wondering if in his situation, because you look at a lot of pitchers that don't do well in one league for a good while, they switch leagues, they switch teams, they switch environments. You're going from San Francisco, where you've won 3, I think he's won 3 World Series.
3 World Series, yeah.
To Minnesota, where there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of excitement there. The Giants are not that good this year.
Well, they're going to trade him, and he's, it's interesting because he has that no trade list, which...
doesn't include Minnesota.
Does not include Minnesota. It does include the Yankees. The reason it includes a lot of the top-tier teams or the traditionally top-tier teams is so he can renegotiate a contract or something in order to get traded. So I get that. That just because he has a team on his no-trade list doesn't necessarily mean, he really doesn't want to be there. That's just a negotiating tactic. But... I mean, when we're talking about him comparative to Keuchel, when we're talking about, just trading somebody versus just spending money, he didn't really jump out at you as being necessarily a better acquisition, when we looked at the hard numbers about it. I mean, right now, the only pitcher I would say you give up the farm for and who's still an ace would be Max Scherzer from the Nationals, who are delusional in thinking that they're even going to make the playoffs this year. I don't think that they
would never trade him anyway at this rate.
But here's the thing on Scherzer, comparative to Bumgarner. Next year, Scherzer's 10-5 rights kick in, where if you got a trade, if you're the Nationals and you're about to lose this guy anyway in another season, you don't get to put the deal together you want. You have to basically go on the whim of what Scherzer might want to do, because he can say, no, I'm not going there. He can invoke his 10-5 rights. So it could make sense for them to maximize their return for Scherzer now versus waiting next year.
That's assuming they even would consider doing that. They think they're still competing in the NL East.
They're competing in the NL East as much as they possibly can, but that's the Braves and Phillies show, in all honesty.
Sure. No, I agree.
In my opinion, and it's we're not even at the halfway point, but in my opinion, you're looking at probably a wild card spot from the NL East and probably a wild card spot from the NL West.
I would agree.
Maybe one of the wild cards from the NL Central.
I doubt it. It's gonna be whoever wins that dogfight right now, which is not even really dogfight. It's kind of the worst division right now, but that's okay.
It is, but I'm just in case something picks up and the Reds might add people because the Reds have gone on this big winning streak.
That's fair. Yeah.
So maybe. So I just don't see a wild card spot, a second wild card spot coming from the East. I just don't see that.
Sure.
And that's where I think, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on who you're a fan of, that's where the Nationals live right now.
Yeah.
But we shall see. It's almost not quite to the halfway point. We got the trade deadline coming up on July 31st. There is no non-waiver trades this year, as we discussed earlier.
New rule.
So there's a lot to come and see, and
Should probably start talking about like all-star ballots and stuff next time too.
Oh yeah, we got the All-Star ballots coming in, and the voting, the players voting off the top 3, and
it's all sorts of fun now.
All sorts of fun. We're gonna have just a menagerie of things to throw at the wall, and we'll sponsor the show next week from whoever randomly wants a shout out.
Montreal X-rays.
Next week's show will be sponsored by the Montreal X-rays. I think that's a good place to stop. If you guys have any comments, feel free to reach out to us on the Facebook page, facebook.com/TR Podcast. I'm so clever that I made the P in TRP and the P in podcast overlap. That's just good branding.
It's all in the details.
It's all in the deets. So from Lord Matthew and I, we thank you guys for listening. We hope Ruben hasn't been shot in the DR, and always be a fan.